Hurricanes. That topic is one of the biggest questions or topics people always ask me about. You know, it's that fear of the unknown. How dangerous are they? What is it really like to go through a hurricane? How much damage does it cause? Oh, flood insurance, hurricane insurance. I get so many questions. So this entire video is dedicated just to hurricanes. So I'm going to cover some of the things that you need to know, some of the things maybe you didn't know that you need to know. And then I'm also going to provide for you some special resources so you can dig in a little bit deeper and do some research, because everybody's situation is a bit different on what they need to consider when thinking about hurricanes. Hi, I'm Jill Thomas, and each week I bring new videos and fresh content about living here in the Sunshine State, especially here on the west coast of Florida in the Sarasota area, and then all things real estate. So if you've been thinking about making that move, then this is the channel for you. Be sure to tap that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and keep on watching. And then when you're ready to take it out of the virtual world and make it a little bit more real, then please give me a call, text, or email me. I'm so happy to connect with you. We can talk, we can do a Zoom session, whatever your comfort level is, and I'm happy to answer your specific questions. And sometimes people just need to chat and talk it through a little bit. So please know I'm here for you. Thankfully, Sarasota isn't known for getting a lot of direct hits from hurricanes, but it doesn't mean that we can't be hit by a hurricane, nor does it mean that we're not going to see some potential serious damage from other types of storms. So in this video, I'm going to talk about just not hurricanes, but a couple of the other types of storms that we might see that can cause some significant damage and you need to be careful of. We'll talk about how you can prepare for it, how to deal with it afterwards, and a little bit more. And actually, then at the end of the video, I'm going to talk about what the 2021 predictions are looking like for hurricanes coming out of the Atlantic. Number one, tropical depressions and tropical storms. Tropical depressions, tropical storms, and hurricanes are all different types of cyclones, tropical cyclones. And really the main difference between the three is how fast they're going. So first, a tropical depression is the more mild version of all of this. Not to say that it doesn't cause damage, it certainly can, but this is a storm that can go anywhere from 0 to 38 miles per hour. Then the next step up is a tropical storm, and that goes from 39 to 73 miles per hour. Then after that, a hurricane is anything 74 or greater miles per hour, and we'll go into hurricanes in point two. Now, when a tropical depression or tropical storm takes place, typically not only are you going to see some strong winds, but there will be plenty of rain, lots and lots of rain. So that's why even though it's maybe not as dangerous as a hurricane, you can still see some tree branches that come down. There's little areas that can flood. So we'll see all of that. And then also it's when that tropical depression or tropical cyclone becomes 39 miles per hour is when they name the storm. And so in a bit, I'm going to show you the names of all the storms for 2021. So they don't get named until they hit at least 39 miles per hour. Other things that we can see because of a tropical storm or tropical depression, we can actually lose our power for a little while. Now, usually with these storms, I don't really recall the power going out for a significant period of time. Sometimes it just could be a few minutes or for an hour or two. Usually with these storms, I don't recall it ever going out for days like it might for a hurricane. And then also when these storms take place, unlike hurricanes, we still kind of go through life in spite of them. Maybe you slow things down a bit. Maybe you're not out running errands when it's raining really bad and it's horrible like that. But typically people are still going to work. You're still doing what you've got to do in life. You just might scale back a bit. And honestly, it depends on what kind of job you have. Obviously, if you're in the medical field, if you work at a store, typically everything stays open at that time. Sometimes though, maybe the hours are cut a little bit shorter just for the safety of the employees, things like that. But otherwise, the world doesn't necessarily come to a complete halt during a tropical storm or tropical depression. And truthfully, the one issue I really have with some of these storms, especially the tropical storm, is when the wind blows really, really hard, I tend to get ear infections. There's something about the wind blowing in and maybe debris, obviously particles that we can't see. And I tend to get ear infections when the storms are really bad. So if I do go out, I try to keep a hood up, maybe wrap a scarf, do something to protect my ears, or even putting like little earplugs just to protect myself so I don't end up with an ear infection, because that's happened a number of times. Number 2, hurricanes. So as we're learning, a hurricane is really a tropical cyclone. It first starts off as a tropical depression, then a storm, and then it becomes a hurricane once it hits 74 miles per hour. Now, if that tropical storm is already over land, the likelihood of it turning into a hurricane and picking up enough speed to hit that 74 miles per hour, then it most likely will not become a hurricane, because that land's going to slow it down. If it's still out in the Atlantic or up in the Gulf of Mexico, that's when it can pick up the speed to be classified as a hurricane. And then of course, if it's really farther out there in the Atlantic and it keeps coming, that's when it can really gain speed. So, you've got Cat 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, depending on how fast that hurricane is moving along. And then of course, as you can imagine, the faster it goes, then the more damage it can cause. And some of those hurricanes are huge. They are not little things. They're not like a tornado that comes through. Some of these hurricanes are as wide as the state of Florida. So some people will tell me, well, I don't want to live on the coast because I don't want to be at risk of getting hit by a hurricane. I'd rather live in the Orlando area. Well, I would say to that is, don't let that be your final deciding factor or your only deciding factor, because in recent years, Orlando has certainly seen more damage than we have from hurricanes and storms. So just because you're in the middle of the state does not make you immune to getting hit or seeing damage from a hurricane or any other type of storms. Everybody is at risk in the entire state. Now, as I've already mentioned then, it seems like Sarasota has been very blessed and fortunate to not have a direct hit from hurricanes. And I think it's been about 100 years since it has been. I've lived here for 30 years, and yes, they've come close. We've experienced the outsides of hurricanes. It's not like we don't get any wind or rain at all from them, but the damage has been pretty minimal. It's been mild compared to other parts of the state. So we're very fortunate. And people always ask them, well, why Sarasota? Why have you guys been protected? So here's the local lore, the local folklore. People say that, there was these Native Americans that were here before us, and some people believed they just blessed the area, and so that's why we're protected. Some believe that they just knew what was the best spot to be at, and that's why we're protected. There's actually still some sacred Indian burial grounds around town, and so they think Mother Nature is protecting us because of those burial grounds. And then other people just think it's the land formation, in the state and what it's like under the water, and that's why we've been protected. So I really don't know what the true answer is, or maybe it's a combination of everything, but nonetheless, I'm very grateful that I live in an area where we've been very fortunate, unlike the Panhandle or Southeast Florida. They get nailed a lot, or just that fear, that risk of having to deal with the hurricanes. Number 3, before the storm. Okay, so now that we know a little bit more about hurricanes and tropical storms, let's talk about how to prepare for those. Now, I don't think I mentioned yet, but hurricane season for the Atlantic is June 1st to November 30th. And I'm recording this video in the middle of June of 2021. So we are already in hurricane season. Now, typically we don't see too many right at the beginning of season, but it doesn't mean it can't happen. So here we are in hurricane season. So this is what you need to do. First thing, go buy some supplies. And if you are watching this video in 2021 and you haven't bought supplies yet, please go out and do that, because there's nothing worse than going to the store and the shelves are empty. So go get water, go get non-perishable food. If you're getting canned goods, make sure you have a can opener, not just an electric one, but a manual one, unless those cans have one of those, pull tops on them. So make sure that you have those types of things. If you have medication you need to take, make sure you keep your prescriptions filled. Don't wait till the last minute to go get a prescription filled, or if there's special over-the-counter medicine you need, have a first aid kit ready to go, because you could get hurt through the process. If you are checking on something, you just never know. So make sure you have some first aid supplies. That's a really good thing to have. Make sure that you keep the gas tank in your car filled as best as you can, because if something happens and you do have to evacuate, and even leading up to the storms, people sometimes will do like panic buying in advance, and then you might not have an opportunity to get as much gas as what you would like. So go get gas. And then another thing too that people don't always think about is, if you have a gas grill, go get some propane tanks filled, because if you don't have power for a little while, then at least you can grill. Or even if you've got a friend or a family member who might need some help, then you can share in some of the supplies if they don't have power. So that's what's really nice too, is if in the end you don't need the things, I guarantee there's somebody else that you know and care about, or even a stranger that you can share some of these things with. So be prepared. Go to the store, go get those things. Oh, and I totally forgot. Make sure you have batteries and a radio, a flashlight, those kinds of things too, like lanterns, even if they're battery operated, or kerosene, whatever it takes. But make sure you have those types of supplies. And then something else that's good to have is a go bag. If you do need to evacuate or go to a shelter, then make sure you have a bag of things together that you know you need. Or even if it's premature for you to go ahead and get the bag together and let it sit there between now and November 30th, get together a list. Do your research, figure out exactly what you need to take with you, and get that list written up so that when it happens, you're not panicking, and you can stay calm, think it through, and go grab those things that you need that are the most important. And that's a really wise and smart thing to do. Number 2, before the storm, have an insurance checkup. That's right, you give that insurance agent a call, just not for your house, but even for your car. But let's focus on the house. Of course, if you are in a flood zone, you have to have flood insurance if you have a mortgage. If you paid cash, you don't have to have it. But if all of a sudden you're starting to panic and you think, oh man, what if my property were to flood, then you need to work on that. And then also wind insurance. One thing people don't always realize when I talk to them from up north, they always ask about hurricane insurance. There really isn't anything that's called hurricane insurance. It's flood and wind. So again, the flood is determined more about which flood zone you're in, but then also the elevation. How elevated is your property and your home? And that's only determined by an elevation certificate. So if you do want to add flood insurance, if you previously didn't have it, you need an elevation certificate. And you cannot do that at the last minute, because you got to hire somebody to come out and get that for you. And then same thing with the wind insurance, wind mitigation report. That's something else you need, because a lot of the general homeowners policies here doesn't necessarily cover wind, or doesn't cover it very well. So if you want to beef up your insurance coverage, you certainly have to do that in advance. And then one other thing too is you cannot make changes to your insurance if a storm is 48 hours away from hitting land. In some cases, it's 24 hours. And then you cannot make any changes. I think it has to be at least 72 hours after the storm is over. And they're just doing that so people don't try to manipulate the system, not pay for coverage all the time, and then just quick pay for it only when they feel like they might need it. So make sure that your insurance coverage is well taken care of, and that's certainly something you have to do in advance. Please don't wait till the last minute. And if you're getting ready to close on a house, same thing. If that storm's out there and a storm's coming, you make sure you get that insurance bound, because you still want to close. It doesn't matter if the storm's going to hit Sarasota or not, or whatever city you're in. If it's going to come somewhere, that's like that for the whole state. It's just not for one city. So be very cautious of that. Number 3, protect your home. Of course, if you have hurricane shutters, get those up, or something else you want to use to protect your windows, get those installed. Sometimes people will just take pieces of plywood, have them cut out to the size of the windows and secure them on their own that way, and then they can still use them year after year. So we see different variations of that. Make sure you secure loose items that are outdoors, whether they're potted plants or little statuary things. I've got this little, like a flag on a almost like a shepherd's hook type thing in my front yard. I'd need to pull that out because that thing would be a horrible projectile. If you can get your car inside the garage, that's a good thing too, to protect your vehicle. And sometimes I've heard of people who have outdoor furniture, patio furniture, and you have a pool, they will actually put the furniture into the swimming pool so it doesn't blow around and hit the cage of the swimming pool, and it's a little bit more protected there. Or of course you can bring the furniture inside or do half and half, whatever, but that's something else you can do. If you just have lanai furniture outside, you might want to try to bring it indoors. If a big storm is coming, just protect your furniture and protect your home. And then number 4, develop an evacuation plan. So some areas are going to be deemed more evacuation worthy than others, and the county is going to help you out with that. They're going to say this area is mandatory evacuation or voluntary. So know what kind of evacuation area you live in, and then also get to know where the shelters are at, because the county certainly has a number of shelters all throughout that you can choose which one you want to go to. And some of them are actually pet friendly, because that's the other thing you need to figure out too, is how are you going to take care of your pets? You know, you don't want to leave them home by themselves and you take off. So have a game plan also for your pets when a storm comes. That's really important. And then of course, this is why I said have that go bag all ready, because you need to know what can I take to the shelter and what can't I take. Know those things in advance, and then start to kind of prepare yourself. So in the back of your mind, you know, if I do need to go and do this, if I have to evacuate, if I need to go to a shelter, I've got a game plan, and I really do think it's going to give you peace of mind. Number 4, after the storm. So of course we got before the storm comes. Now let's talk about after the storm. One thing you'll see a lot of after storms, whether it's a hurricane or even a tropical storm, is there's going to be puddles of water everywhere. And in front of a lot of homes there are ditches, and these ditches fill up with water, and they're serving their purpose. But in that water there's also debris. There could be wildlife that even could be potentially dangerous, like certain snakes. There could be just chemicals, or I don't know, like just icky stuff in there. And sometimes I see adults and children playing in these ditches because they just think it's fun. But honestly, it could be potentially dangerous, whether it is a snake or just something you can't see. And if you have a cut somewhere, you could have a horrible infection. So I find it kind of gross. But so be very careful with that. Don't play in the water afterwards. Another thing to do is please check on your neighbors. Whether obviously we have a lot of older folks around here, so you want to check on them, but even other people, make sure they're okay. Just because you have power, don't assume that all of your neighbors have power. Maybe they do need help. Maybe they do need respite, and they can come to your house for a little bit, or keep some things cool, or whatever, share some ice with them. So please check on your neighbors just to make sure they're safe and okay. Another thing you need to be careful of is avoiding heat exhaustion, because after a storm, if there are trees down, debris, things that you want to go out and clean up, it's really hot. This is going to be during our hottest time of the year, so make sure that you do stay hydrated, that there is plenty of water, and that's why it's so important for you to buy that water in advance, especially if you have a well, because obviously you have no water access at all because if the electric were to go out. So at least in a home, you can still use the water in your house when the power goes out. Another thing to be very, very careful of is down powered lines. So in Sarasota County, I don't know what the ratio is between lines that are buried underground and ones that aren't. I don't know, probably 50-50. So be very cautious. That's another reason why you should stay out of the water, because you don't know where that down power line is at. You could obviously be electrocuted or have some serious issues because of that. So be very conscientious of that as well. And then the final thing is, if you do have a generator and you're using it, to power your home, be careful and make sure you follow the directions so you don't have any carbon monoxide poisoning. It seems like every year there's always a story or two about that, how people do not use the generators properly. And what a sad way to end all of this. You go through the storm, you guys do well, your family does well, and then you buy the generator to take care of your family, take care of yourself, and then in the end somebody's harmed because it wasn't used properly. So just please be very careful with the generators. Number 5, the 2021 season. All right, in this first graphic, I want to show you the names of all of the hurricanes for this year. And I don't know, for some reason, my family and I, we always like to read through the names and see which names are on there of people that we know. So this year, there's a Henry and Sam. Those are the names of 2 of my nephews who live up in Toledo, except my Henry's with a Y and not an I. But anyway, so Henry and Sam are on there this year, so hopefully I don't get to visit them that way. They don't come in the form of a hurricane. Now, NOAA, N-O-A-A, which stands for the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, which is a mouthful, have predicted the following for this year. They say that there are going to be 13 to 20 named storms, and let's see if you guys can remember, how fast does the tropical cyclone need to be going to be a named storm? If you said 39 miles per hour, then you are right, so good job. And then of those named storms, they predict that 6 to 10 are going to be hurricanes, and of those 3 to 5 are going to be major hurricanes. Now, in the other little pie graph, you're going to see that you see 60%, 30%, and 10, and they're saying that there's a 60% probability that this season is going to be above normal in activity. There's a 30% chance that it's going to be near normal, and a 10% chance it's going to be below normal in its activity. So hopefully the odds will be with us and it'll be like 10%, 20%. That would be nice, right? So that's what they're predicting right now. Thankfully, last year in 2020 with COVID and the shutdowns, it was extremely mild. So hopefully this year will follow suit. We'll see. Number 6, additional resources. Okay, so I want to give you a few places for you guys to go and check out, and I'll put the links in the description below so you can just click on those as well. Great places for you to check out to get more information about hurricanes, hurricane preparation, and just everything. And actually, some of these graphics I got came from some of these websites, so they'll look a little familiar to you as well. But you can check out Ready.gov, that's a good one, Hurricanes.gov, and NOAA.gov, N-O-A-A. I haven't looked up yet, but I'll try to remember to throw in the description links to like Manatee County, Sarasota County, and even Charlotte County that will give you information on shelters, what to do, what you're allowed to bring to the shelters, because each area might be a little bit different, how much you can bring with you and other recommendations, and then also to find those that permit pets. So that's super important so you can get yourself organized. One other resource I kind of like is the chief meteorologist out of Tampa, ABC Action News. His name is Dennis Phillips. I follow him on Facebook, and he is a no drama kind of guy. He's not here to sensationalize the storms. He wants to shoot straight with us. He really promotes not panicking. He wants you to be ready and have a game plan and just everything. I just love his approach to all of it. In fact, he even has the 7 rules. What is it called? The 7 hurricane rules, I think is what it's called. And anyway, so you can follow him on Facebook, and if I can throw in a link to that too, to his Facebook page, I will. But yeah, he's really a great guy, and you know, if you leave comments or ask questions at different times, he will try, he tries to answer, I think, quite a few of them. I don't think he answers everybody, but he'll answer a few. So that's kind of cool too. So Dennis Phillips is a good guy. So there's my 2 cents on hurricanes and how to get ready. And even as I was doing this video, I'm realizing I don't have any supplies myself. I think I need to go shopping and at least go get some water and batteries and things like that. So I need to work on it too. I am definitely at fault. Thankfully though, I think after Hurricane Irma, my parents bought a generator. I gotta double check with them. So that would be kind of nice, so I can just go and hang out with them. And the other thing too is, like, if you're kind of a tricky thing, because if your car is in the garage during a storm, but your power goes out, like, I think you can still force your door open, can you not? And get that to come open. So at least you can get your car out, even if the power is out. So that's kind of an interesting thing there. But anyway, so be ready for it. I remember during Hurricane Irma, I stayed at my parents' house, and the next morning after the storm, no power at their house, no power at my house. And we really wanted our coffee. So we just took a regular pot from the kitchen, a metal pot, and heated up water on the grill with the pot. We took the coffee pot, out there to the lanai, and then put the grounds in the basket, and then pour the hot water slowly over those grounds. And we just made our own coffee that way because we were pretty desperate for some caffeine at that point. And so sometimes you have to be a little creative. Just got to make sure that you already have ground beans and not whole beans, or you're only relying on a Keurig or something like that. So again, think ahead. If worst case scenario happens, what can you do to make it through? So I think that's a good thing. Okay, YouTube comment of the week. And this question is from Katie Matson. She asks, do sellers in Florida accept a sale contingency, putting in an offer when their existing home is in contract? Then the proceeds from the home will go towards a down payment on the new house. This is a great question, Katie, and I get it actually pretty often. Now, let me say this. Prior to 2021 and the current market we're in right now, I would say that having that purchase contingent on the sale of the buyer's home elsewhere, or even locally, I suppose, isn't as common here as I think it might be in other areas of the country. And I only say that just because from talking to people from up north that come down here to buy, they'll go, oh no, the sale of my house was contingent on the buyers selling their house, which was contingent on the buyers of their house selling, and blah, blah, blah. It goes back, like 4 or 5 layers. Here, it's not like that at all. I don't think too many sellers would tolerate that. I've never seen it happen. I think I've done it once or twice where it was contingent on the sale of a property, elsewhere, but otherwise it's not super common here. Now let's jump to 2021 and the market we're in right now. It's not unusual for there to be multiple offers on properties. So people are paying over list price. They might be waiving appraisal contingencies. They might have a really short inspection period. So if you have a contingency like that, where your property has to sell, I think then your offer is going to fall to the bottom of the pile, and they're going to probably choose an offer with less risk. So this time right now in 2021, might not be the best time to try to do that. I can't say that we couldn't try to do it, but I don't think it would be super successful at this time. So that's my 2 cents on that. But that's a really good question. I'm glad you asked, because people do ask that pretty often. So that's a good one. Well, I appreciate you guys watching so much. Thanks for watching all the way through to the end here. I just love interacting with you. So again, don't be shy, give me a call. I'm really enjoying doing these Zoom videos with a lot of you. It's so much fun to get to know you, and I just like hearing what's going on in other parts of the country too. So it's just an awesome thing. I'm really grateful for the technology. Again, thanks so much for watching, you guys. Have a great day.